Well, the world continues to reel from the pandemic of COVID-19, and now the USA is rocked by protests following the death of George Floyd. Our Jewish world is now devastated by a different tragedy, the passing of Rabbi Dr. Norman LAMM, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, just 46 days after the death of his beloved wife, Mindy. And much has already been stated and written about the legacy of this great scholar, of this Talmid Chacham, a man who was a pioneer, who saved Yeshiva University during his presidency from the brink of bankruptcy, and beforehand, who served as the revered pulpit rabbi of the Jewish Center, and before that in Springfield, Massachusetts. It is there in those pulpits that he fearlessly addressed some of the most important and some of the most controversial issues of his day. But it's particularly difficult to bid farewell to Rabbi LAMM in a time so tumultuous as ours, when we could have used his voice of moral clarity more than ever. We might have turned to his voluminous writings, and particularly to his sermons, to seek guidance and enlightenment. On June 12, 1976, Parshat Naso, Rabbi LAMM Zal delivered a poignant drasha on the topic of peace, of shalom. He noted that the main theme of the priestly blessing, the Birchas Kohanim, that we read this week, is about shalom. Yisa Hashem panav elecha, yasem lecha shalom. May Hashem lift his countenance upon you, and may he grant you with peace. The very final Mishnah, the 6 orders of Mishnayos, tells us that peace is the most treasured vessel of all. Am Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta lo motza kadosh baruch hu kli machzik bracha li Yisrael ela shalom. There is no greater kli that is machzik bracha, no greater vessel that holds with it blessing than that of peace. By way of anecdote, I'll share a story. My 2 younger children, Adir and Shalom, were once in one of their many wrestling matches, fighting viciously against one another, half playing, half fighting. And we pointed out, we said, Adir, while he was using his strength and his cunning to wrestle his older brother, said, Adir, do you know what your name means? He says, what? Adir means strong. He was emboldened by this, and he stood up straight and he started to attack his brother. Take that, I'm Adir, the strong. At that moment, Shalom turned to us and he said, but Abba, Ima, what does my name mean? He said, your name means peace. He was a little bit taken aback. Peace? How's peace? But don't forget, because the Chazal tell us that peace is the strongest of all. Peace defeats war. Peace defeats all other opponents. With this, Shalom gave a big grin. He said, okay, Adir, take that. Here comes peace. And he began to punch his brother once again. But what indeed is peace? And why is peace so powerful? Rabbi LAMM cites a Sifri. The Sifri offers 2 possibilities. The Shita of Rabbi Naso, the opinion of Rabbi Naso, who says that V'yasem l'cha shalom refers to the peace and tranquility that will reign over the world with the restoration of the Davidic dynasty, the Messianic times, the Malchus Beis David. That's the opinion of Rabbi Naso. Peace is this sort of eternal and almost elusive utopian peace. Rabbi Chanina Sgan HaKohanim, however, offers a less ambitious vision of peace. The Yasem Lacha Shalom, says Rabbi Chanina, it refers to Shalom Beisecha, peace in your home. The definition of Shalom as presented by Rabbi Naso resonates deeply with many of us. In fact, Rabbi LAMM noted, most of us have been reared on a noble vision, peace for all world in all our times. It is one of those most beautiful and inspiring themes to capture the imagination of mankind. Rabbi Natan's utopian vision, is reminiscent of the oft-quoted prophecies of Yeshayahu Hanavi, of Micha, of Amos, which describe that a nation shall not take up sword against this nation, that one day will come and we will that will beat our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks, that kind of peace that we're talking about. Or Ze'ev v'taleh yiru ke'echad v'aryeh ke'bakar yochal tevim v'nachash afar lachamo, the wolf and the lamb will graze together. The lion will eat straw like the ox, and the serpent's food will be the earth. Indeed, it's this sort of peace that many of us long for today, as we grapple with larger-than-life issues and problems sweeping the country and the planet. And yet, it's strange that Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim, who advances such a pedestrian vision of peace being limited to the confines of the home, Shalom Beisecha, that in light of a statement he makes elsewhere, he suggests something so simplistic over here. Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim is the very person who used to say, having mispalel bishloma shel malchus. You should daven for the welfare of the government, for were it not for the fear it inspires, every man would swallow his neighbor alive. Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim is the sort of person for whom just government, world peace, public welfare are all at the front of his mind. If so, why didn't he mention that sort of epic, large-scale peace over here? Why does he shoot so low, turning inward for the less glamorous kind of shalom, the kind of shalom that only exists in the four walls of our home? I will let Rabbi LAMM speak for himself. Rabbi Chanina Skan HaKohanim is telling us is this: dream the dreams of Isaiah, of nations not lifting up swords against nations. Pray for the peace of the realm, but don't be unrealistic. Strive for these always, but without illusions as to their viability and their applicability and realizability in the present or the immediate future. Insofar as now is concerned, said Rabbi LAMM, here we must turn to the blessings of the priests. It is they who refer to that aspect of the good life which can be attained and is within our grasp. The blessing of peace in the priestly blessing speaks of a peace which is much more realistic and attainable. Shalom beveisecha. Peace in your homes. First, you must strive for peace in your own home, between husband and wife, between parents and children, brother and sister, and then you can strive for the larger aspects of peace, political, social, international, which will find their full realization at the end of days, the days of the Messiah. In other words, dream big dreams for the world, for society, but work on that which is in your sphere of influence. It's easy to think, since we're living in a tumultuous world, that we must be on the threshold of the Messianic era. How many times have you heard over the last few months, oh, the Mashiach's around the corner? In a recent op-ed piece by Rav Aaron Lopiansky, the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva Greater Washington, he put this concept strikingly. When we describe the Mashiach as solving our health issues, as solving the shidduch crisis, legal issues, and so on, we are looking for a solution to a personal issue. And our yearning has nothing to do with the Mashiach. It has to do with our blood pressure, maybe our bank account, the IRS, or our child waiting for a shidduch. And we can hope for the transformative age of miracles, but we must continue to work towards the type of peace which is within our hands. To sit back and to invoke messianism now, to dream about the Malchus based David, is not just an act of over-idealization. It is a cop-out. It is a lazy way of ignoring the problems which exist directly under our noses and the ones that are in our backyard. For the issue of racism is a larger-than-life problem. It is that seemingly eternal stain on humanity, and we cannot just respond by hoping for a revolution and praying for a resolution. Instead, we need to begin to fight this scourge by focusing on our own homes. And that means that we need to learn to talk to our children about race. Mind the messages we inadvertently and willingly send. It means that we must be prepared to fight injustice, not just out there, but in any form, against any person or ethnic group. But here, start at home. Do we really believe that every human being is created b'tselem Elokim, in the image of God? And if we do, how does that transform our actions and teachings? Is our bias free? We spring into action to picket, to protest, to post our views. But what happens when we witness bullying in our own children's school, among coworkers, or at a store? Are we as zealous? Do we post as quickly about that? Shalom beisecha, peace within our home, means that peace begins at home. As I watched the numerous eulogies delivered for Rabbi LAMM this past Wednesday, there were two distinct stories that were being told. There were the rabbis, the Rosh Yeshivas, and dignitaries who presented Rabbi LAMM as the Rabbi LAMM we knew, the public intellectual, the scholar, the influencer that he was. But it was the grandchildren who were more interesting, for they painted a more intimate and poignant portrait of someone. One grandson, Dan LAMM, a police officer and ex-Marine, told of the loving support provided by his grandfather, though he took a decidedly different path in life than that of the rabbinic scholar. Another grandchild, Yali Drach Farachi, Chicago, married a boy from Chicago, recounted that moment when she arrived at her seminary in Israel and she found a series of inspirational quotes on the wall from great Jewish thinkers. And then she looked up and she saw one of the quotes was from Rabbi Dr. Norman Lamb, and she quipped how odd it was to see the name of her Zaida, a great Jewish thinker. It was her grandfather. For to her, he was a loving grandparent. That's who he was. He was about Shalom Beisecha. The lasting legacy of Rabbi LAMM is not only his fierce intellectualism, his unabashed support of modern orthodoxy, and his courage to confront the ills of society. It is also his courage to pursue Shalom Beisecha, a healthy, wholesome home environment. We are at last in that frightening and awe-inspiring transition that we have been waiting for months, between our quarantine life on the one hand and a return to a more conventional communal life outside the threshold of our doors. Let us see to it, as we venture outdoors, that our homes are also in good order. Shabbat Shalom.